Before the great stones pierced the heavens, there was only the suffocating mud. And the dark mud of the delta demanded a heavy tribute, paid in shattered bone and mortal flesh. The sweet scent of the white lotus is brutally choked by the thick, copper stench of total ruin. Through the weeping, humid fog of the marshlands, a singular shadow moves with predatory intent, silencing the frantic cries of the dying. The air itself is a heavy, living entity, pressing down on the lungs of the survivors, refusing mercy. Every inhalation draws in the suffocating miasma of the stagnant water, mixed with the sharp, acidic tang of spilled adrenaline. The reeds, once a vibrant, swaying testament to the fertility of the Nile, now stand broken and shivering, painted with grim evidence. The gods do not build eternity with whispered prayers. They forge it with unspeakable violence. Here in the choked, bruised twilight of Lower Egypt, the water runs thick and black, with the lifeblood of a broken army. Trampled papyrus reeds form a jagged, floating graveyard, snagging the swollen limbs of men who dared to defy the gathering storm. Every breath drawn in this foul swamp tastes of salt, of raw fear, and of impending absolute subjugation. Out of the obscuring volumetric fog, a terrifying silhouette solidifies. It is not merely a man who walks among the butchered, but a falcon descending upon its broken prey. The air grows dense, heavy with the terrifying gravity of an entirely new age. The white crown of the south emerges, pristine and terrible against the organic filth. It stands unnaturally bright, a gleaming beacon of pure divine geometry, cutting through the chaotic, horrific nightmare of the battlefield. The Hedjet remains immaculate, a stark, unyielding promise of absolute order, rising from the very center of absolute carnage and human despair. What kind of monstrous entity wears the absolute perfection of heaven into a slaughterhouse of mortal men? The conqueror pauses, the bruised purple shadows of the setting sun carving deep, unnatural chasms into his exhausted face. He is Narmer, the warlord of the arid south. But the trembling earth no longer recognizes him merely as a mortal king of dust. He is becoming the living, breathing vessel of Horus, anchored in a frail human shell. The transition is pure agony. To house the divine is to slowly burn from the inside out. The physical toll of forced unification is etched into the very musculature of his trembling arms. Layers of sweat, dried blood, and the foul, caked mud of the delta coat his burning skin, like a second, suffocating armor forged in pure physical exhaustion. His heart beats with a violent, erratic rhythm, a drum of war echoing inside the cavern of his ribcage. The Hedjet sits upon his brow not as a symbol of joyous victory, but as an impossibly dense, crushing weight. It feels as though the very tectonic plates of the deep desert have been compressed and balanced precariously atop his exhausted, aching skull. To birth a civilization, the architect must first wade through an ocean of absolute ruin. His fingers, blistered and trembling from hours of relentless execution, tighten around the shaft of the heavy copper mace. The dull, bruised gleam of the weapon catches the dying embers of the burning papyrus villages, reflecting the fire of 1,000 slaughtered families. The metal is unbearably heavy, weighted not just by raw copper, but by the souls of the vanquished. Beneath him, forced into the blood-saturated mire, kneels the broken king of the north. Their eyes lock in a terrible, silent collision, the defiant terror of a dying ruler meeting the hollow, merciless, widening stare of an emerging, unfeeling god of order. There is no pity in the gaze of the falcon. There is only the sacred mathematics of order. The ambient sound of the swamp seems to violently retreat, sucked into the vacuum of this singular, horrific micro-moment. The chaotic shrieks of the distant dying fade, replaced entirely by the deafening, erratic rasp of the kneeling king's desperate, failing breath. In this suffocating silence, the destiny of thousands of unborn generations balances on the bleeding edge of a weapon. Narmer's muscles coil, screaming in biological rebellion against the unnatural stamina demanded by the heavens. Every sinew in his shoulder threatens to tear, yet the divine mandate overriding his nervous system forces the heavy, blood-crusted mace slowly, inevitably upward toward the darkening sky. The warlord is drowning in the sheer, unyielding pressure of birthing a timeless empire. He feels the violent shudder of the marsh beneath his feet, the earth rejecting the sheer concentration of death required to forge the two lands into one. The humid air clings to his throat, thick with the invisible ashes of burned offerings and broken dynasties. Even the gods must pay a terrible physical price when they choose to walk upon the fragile earth. The King of the North whispers a final, jagged curse, his mouth overflowing with the bitter taste of mud and defeat. He does not look away from the descending shadow. He stares directly into the void, bearing witness to the very end of his world. There can be no coexistence. The mechanics of eternity demand absolute, singular, terrifying supremacy. This is the precise intersection of history and myth, the violent fulcrum upon which the next 3,000 years of human endeavor will relentlessly turn. The mace hangs suspended in the humid twilight, a brutal pendulum waiting to strike the final hour of chaos. He can feel the eyes of the unseen pantheon bearing down upon him, demanding the final bloody execution. There is no glory to be found in the squelching mud of the delta, only the cold, mechanical grimness of a cosmic duty being fulfilled. The sky above them seems to curdle, the bruising purple clouds swirling into a tightening vortex mirroring inescapable gravity. There is a momentary hesitation, a final, desperate gasp of the human soul before it is permanently erased. The mortal man named Narmer dies internally, consumed entirely by the blinding light of Horus. With a terrifying, unnatural surge of force that defies the limits of his exhausted flesh, the mace arcs downward. The chiaroscuro shadows violently shift, fracturing the pristine reflection of the white crown upon the dark water as the weapon connects with a sickening finality. The sound of a skull fracturing echoes not just across the swamp, but through the endless corridors of time. The impact sends a dense shockwave through the water, disrupting the stagnant pools of blood and scattering the bloated marsh flies into a frenzied cloud. Ma'at, the divine, unyielding cosmic order, is not gently whispered into existence. It is violently, brutally hammered into the bedrock. Civilization is a towering monument erected upon a hidden foundation of crushed bone and absolute silence. Narmer does not flinch. His eyes have lost all trace of human empathy, replaced by the cold, infinite stare of a deity who measures the value of a life only by its utility to the cosmic balance. The two lands are unified in merciless execution. What terrifying paradigm have we birthed, where peace requires such a monstrous, unforgiving harvest of human souls? The slaughter concludes, but the crushing burden of eternal rule has only just placed its weight upon him. He slowly lowers the mace, the weapon now far too heavy for a mere mortal to bear. The blood of the vanquished drips rhythmically from the rounded copper head, each drop a percussive testament to the terrifying cost of eternal, unwavering architectural stability. He stands utterly alone in the wasteland of his own creation, a prisoner to the very crown he conquered. The volumetric fog rolls back, revealing the true, staggering scale of the devastation. Thousands of bodies litter the reeds, an endless, horrifying carpet of sacrifice laid out beneath the bruised, uncaring heavens. This is the dark, rotting compost from which the Golden Empire will bloom. The gods are finally satiated. The earth drinks its fill. The age of the pharaohs has violently begun. The dense, suffocating humidity of the ancient delta instantly evaporates, replaced by the artificially chilled, climate-controlled air of a modern gallery. The bruising twilight gives way to stark, calculated LED lighting, bouncing off thick, impenetrable panels of modern soundproof security glass. We have scrubbed the blood from the ancient stone. We have entirely sanitized the horrific genesis of an empire. The Narmer palette stands frozen, a silenced slab of dark schist trapped in a sterile cage of light. Tourists drift past the artifact, their eyes skimming over the intricately carved reliefs without truly seeing the agonizing violence etched into the stone. They see only the neat, symmetrical lines of a historical triumph, entirely blind to the visceral, suffocating terror of the muddy slaughterhouse. We have packaged the absolute horror of unification into a digestible artifact, safe for the passive consumption of crowds. Behind the impenetrable glass, the brutal reality of the ancient world is permanently muted, stripped of its sweltering heat, its deafening screams, and the copper stench of spilled life. We walk past the genesis of civilization, entirely ignorant of the blood-soaked foundation beneath our modern feet. They look upon the raised mace and see beautiful art. They do not hear the sickening crush of bone. We cage eternity behind glass, desperate to forget that our own foundations were forged in absolute, systemic brutality. The carved falcon holds the severed head of the North by a tether, a pristine, two-dimensional abstraction of an act so intensely horrifying that it broke the man who performed it. History is written by victors and then meticulously polished by descendants. Do not be easily deceived by the polished museum stone. The dark mud of the delta never truly washes away. Every towering obelisk that pierces the heavens, every colossal pyramid that defies the slow decay of time, was cemented by the unseen, unremembered suffering of those who were trampled into the earth. The grandeur of Kemet is a beautiful, blinding facade pulled taut over necessary atrocities. Time is the ultimate scribe, but even time attempts to lie about the terrible cost of achieving absolute greatness. Look closely at the perfect, unyielding face of the carving. Beyond the rigid symmetry, beyond the majestic posture of the smiting king, there is a hollow, terrifying emptiness. It is the eternal, silent scream of a mortal man who traded his humanity for the agonizing weight.
Eternity bleeds, my act remains.
The mace is always falling. The king is always dying. The empire is forever being born in fresh blood. Eternity is not a peaceful reward. Eternity is an endless, inescapable, horrific repetition of the very first strike.